Today, right now, it is November 4th. It is 5:08 a.m. It is super early in the morning, which is why I'm whispering. But you may be wondering, Kai, you're not a morning person. Why are you awake? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Today is an incredibly special day. Riot Games has invited me to come out to LA to go and play test set 16 in person, which is such a cool opportunity. I never thought something like this would happen to me, and I'm so grateful. Shout out to my Riot contact, you know who you are. But how did this even happen, right? Well, in case you did not know this, a lot of players and a lot of people actually very recently inducted into the new partner program, whether that's for League of Legends, Valorant, TFT, etc. Riot has very recently tried to revamp the partner program, which hasn't seen any resurrection or any action since 2021. A lot of us who have been like newer creators in the game really have been wanting to be a part of this because there's so many good and interesting perks, and supposedly I guess this is one of them. So this is an incredible opportunity. And again, I'm so grateful to be a part of it. So today I'm taking you guys with me over to LA to the Riot headquarters. We're gonna vlog the entire experience so that you guys can experience what I'm experiencing, because again, I'm still shocked, to be honest, that I get the opportunity to do this, and this is so awesome. So shout out to Riot Games, shout out to you guys, because you guys are the reason that makes all this possible. So let's head over to the airport. All right, so now we are at the hotel. It is currently 8:30 at night Pacific time, which is pretty late. The reason why it's so late is because I was actually out hanging out with a few LA friends who I've actually known for years, but I never got an opportunity to actually meet them in person until today. Shout out to Pollo Chica, Zeeks, and Viet Rice Lord. You guys know who you are, so shout out to you guys. Just like hanging out in the living room, just like talking for like 5-6 hours, which is super fucking fun. But because today is Tuesday, people are still flying in. I think Sub-Zero Arc actually, for example, just landed, so we'll be seeing him in about an hour from now. But because Tuesday is sort of everybody's just settling in, you know, after coming in from the flight, I think we're all just trying to make sure that we're feeling fresh and ready for tomorrow for the set preview. But until then, I'm still gonna be chilling, hanging out. I think Penny, Andrew, and I are actually gonna go get some fucking tacos, so that's gonna be super lit, so maybe I can bring you guys along for that. But other than that, if I don't see you guys soon, I'll have an update later on. Bye-bye.
I'm a nice, sexy, sexed up guy. I have copious amounts of intercourse. Yeah, my chat, I don't think I've ever seen a woman. And all of a sudden, chat is a reflection of the streamer. Fuck you, Riot Games. I'll say it. Yeah, and you said it too. What? Me, Kai Watanabe, and Sub-Zero Arc?
No. What is up? It is currently 9:30 in the morning. I am very tired. It is currently Wednesday. I believe it's November 5th today. So everyone's right now downstairs in the hotel waiting room lobby, and then we're all gonna Uber over to the Riot headquarters to start off the day. I am not a morning person. I'm so fucking tired. Does anyone know, by the way, how long you have to wait until after brushing your teeth you can start drinking Red Bull? Just because like I really need it, but like I don't know if I'm fucking up my dental health. Anyways, view outside's pretty cool. Shout out Riot Games for getting us the hotel. And yeah, I wonder if you guys can see it too, but pretty cool. We got palm trees and shit. Oh. Well, I'm not fixing that. It's cloudy as shit outside though, so it doesn't look as good, I'm sure. But yeah, so we out here. We outside. Gonna go head downstairs. I'm kind of nervous. Like I'm not very good at meeting people for the first time. So we'll see. Hopefully I don't say anything stupid. But yeah, see you guys in a bit. Oh, did I do this transition last time? I forget if I did. Maybe I should just like not do that. Maybe I'll just walk out of frame this time. So yes, as you can tell by that little line of text, unfortunately, we weren't actually allowed to record anything else at the Riot campus past the lobby because there were just a lot of rioters there who were just like working their 9 to 5. And it's just like, well, you can't just have, you know, film stuff and then these guys are in the background and it gets a bit complicated. So unfortunately, we're not allowed to. So this was supposed to be a vlog, but I figured, hey, at least we got to play test set 16 and they sent us back the footage with the audio. So I figured, why not just share that with you guys and do a little bit of good old-fashioned VOD reviews. There, you can hear in the background, by the way, you'll hear me talking a little bit. These guys did not split the game audio and the mic audio, so you can hear me talking a little bit in the background sometimes. Just ignore it, please. It's a little cringe, I can't lie, because you can only hear me talking. You can't hear anybody else talking as well on the call, so it is a bit awkward. But anyways,
going into the game itself, we're starting off with some set 16. And this is, again, the first ever game of set 16 I got to play. So you'll see me like right-clicking things a lot, like reading things a lot. But I'll also be explaining things as we go along. Normally, when we do VOD reviews, we do go at 2x speed. But I figured because it's the brand new set, there's so much to talk about. I'll only like fast forward certain spots if necessary. But let's actually talk about the set itself. At the time of recording this video, we are actually still under embargo. We cannot actually publicly express our opinions about the set because we're all under NDA. And I think one of the big things that I've seen from a lot of folks recently in terms of just the discourse about the set itself and people's concerns is the balance, right? There are a ton. There are 100 champions in this set and some other stuff going on as well with the 40 unlockables, right? So it's 100 in total, 40 of them are unlockable. Now, that being said, though, I think a lot of folks hear that and they immediately think, oh shit, that's gonna be a nightmare to balance. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I had the same reaction as well. But after actually playing the set itself and hearing the devs talk a bit more about their philosophy in terms of game balance and what they really learned from set 15, I can honestly say that this set is probably significantly easier to balance than power-ups. Power-ups were an exponentially more complicated thing to balance compared to just having a bunch of champions, which the levers are much easier to navigate with. Now, before I continue that discussion, let's talk about the augments real quick. Chaotic Evolution, Silver Destiny, and Slice of Life. I just wanted to click on something fast and just read everything. So I actually do roll over Chaotic and Slice of Life very quickly because I just figured I already know what these are. I see Leap of Faith and Flowing Tears. Leap of Faith is Illaoi's hero augment, who is a Bilgewater. She becomes the strongest Illaoi becomes a fighter, and her ability is replaced with an airborne slam that's recast when she kills her target, making her a carry. The Flowing Tears augment as well, it just gives you a little bit of extra tears. It's very reminiscent of Crimea River from back in set 15, but you gain a tier of the goddess, and after your team spends 7.5k mana, you gain 2 more tiers. Effectively, you end up with a blue buff and a tier. But 7.5k mana is a lot to spend, so I would just be a little bit careful if you decide to take this and you're expecting a blue buff kind of early. Usually, it does take quite a bit more time. Now, again, I just want to see something really fast, so I ended up clicking Silver Destiny here, and I ended up getting Spoils, which is a bit lackluster, but that is alright. Now, anyways, back to the original discussion itself about the balance. I do think that at the end of the day, the balance will be significantly better than it will be compared to most previous sets. Again, the levers that they have to work with this set are exponentially simpler and easier to navigate than the power-up system that we had during set 15, which was honestly just an absolute fucking nightmare. Talking about actually the set itself and just the gameplay, I'm right now sitting on a bunch of stuff. I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to be doing. I don't even know which units are bruisers, which ones are wardens. There's a lot of frontline traits this set as well, actually. So actually on my board, you see I have 2 bruiser, but there are bruisers, there are wardens, there's defenders, and then I think there's there's juggernauts as well. There's 4 frontline traits. It's actually quite a lot to keep track of, but that is something to keep in mind when you're trying to navigate the early game. I also decided to slam here just 2 invokers on my board with the Sona, who is a Demacian unit, and Anivia, who is Freljord. And we can talk a little bit about the traits as we see them along here. And actually, in this exact round, I believe, yep, there it is, I pop a quest, which is going to be Poppy. This is the quest unlock system, and let's talk about this a little bit because this is another concern I'm missing a lot, and a lot of folks were worried about your pool getting diluted with units you don't want, and this is a very good example, I think, of when we can talk about it. I think pool dilution is way more of a problem in the early game than it will be in the late game, and the reason I say that is because in the early game, every shop slot is fairly important because you don't normally have the gold in order to actually work around roll. You don't have the gold to roll, right? You actually have to just sit there and hope that your shops are good. So when you lose a shop slot to the mechanic, I can see that feeling pretty bad. For the most part, though, I will say that once you've actually memorized the trait rules, or rather the quest unlock rules for all these units, which again, 40 sounds like a lot, it's really not that bad. It's actually after 4 or 5 games, myself, Buddy Muffins, and Sub-Zero Arc were talking about it, and we just started trying to list as many as we could come up together as a group, and we got through 30 of them. So it's actually very easy to memorize all of them very quick. And just for context, we only played about 4 to 5 games of playtest. That was the allocated time that we were allowed to have to play the set. So it's very easy to memorize these rules. It's really not that hard. That being said, I think if you just navigate the game, just try to be a little bit mindful of the rules as you're playing. If you're trying to compete, then it's not going to be that big of a problem. And for casuals, it's never a problem because they don't really give a shit about this kind of stuff. But overall, I think in the early game, it's going to feel a little bit bad, especially if I had like a Sona 2 in the early game here, and I was like, I have to itemize my Sona 2 to streak, and I have to have the Poppy on my board, then I have to like potentially maybe think about playing into Demacia, and maybe Demacia in the meta is not very good, then yeah, that can feel kind of bad. But I think that's going to be one of the more smaller pain points of the set. And generally speaking, overall, I think that is something that I am willing to say that, yeah, that's going to be frustrating, especially as the set goes on. But I don't think that's going to be like the linchpin. It's not going to be the killer that makes the set completely unplayable, makes me never want to touch it ever again. I do think this set, as I said before, and actually, I don't know if I said it during this take. I've done multiple takes this VOD, but this is the set that I am the most hyped I have ever been about in the history of TFT. And I am not someone who says this kind of stuff lightly. I was already, when I saw set 14 for the preview, I was really concerned. And I remember when I saw Hero Augments in set 8, I was severely concerned. Set 9 Legends, I was very concerned. Set 10, I was like, this sounds pretty good. Set 11, I remember thinking, I don't like encounters. And then I actually despised encounters as the set went on. Set 12, I remember thinking Charms was like pretty good. That was my initial impression. Set 13, I thought the Anomaly would be good. Turns out it wasn't that good, so that was something else. And then Power-Ups as well was like Anomalies version 2.0, which I thought was going to be good, and then it turns out it wasn't that good. So like, generally speaking, I feel like I've overall been pretty good at like identifying which ones have been good and which ones have been bad. And I have very rarely am like, this is going to be the best set of all time. Somebody who says it's going to be the best set of all time, all the fucking time, is Mr. Sub-Zero Arc. You should flame him for that one. That shit pisses me off, low-key. This guy is like, come on, Kai, it's going to be the best set of all time. He says it exactly like that because he's from like Alabama or something. But like, come on. I think he's from Louisiana. I forget. He keeps flaming me. He's like somewhere like down there. But regardless, he keeps flaming me. Like, he keeps like glazing every set, and I'm just like, bro, like, no one's gonna take your word seriously for it. I'm telling you, as someone who does not glaze every single set and does not glaze most sets, this set is looking like the best set of all time. I have not been this hyped to play TFT in so fucking long, and I think part of it is also just partially for the fact that like set 15 kind of blew cock. I ain't gonna lie, I did not touch set 15 very much after like October, like early October, and now we're like in the middle of November. It's been a long time. I've been itching to play TFT, but I refuse to play 17 because that shit fucking sucks cock. Anyways, I've been saying a lot of suck cock a lot. It's not great. I've been suck my cock and whatever. Back to the game itself. I feel like I got very sidetracked. Now, we talked about the balance, we talked about the unlocks and stuff. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other things as well. And let's talk about the traits, just because that did pop up for a second here. Targon, I think, is going to be such a cool trait as well. I'm so glad this is in the set. Targon is threat from set 8. That is back in the game now, which is so fucking cool. I'm so glad that they added that back in. So if you don't remember set 8, or if you did not play set 8 at all, threats was essentially units that you could toss into your board that you would flex them in because they were traitless. So essentially, if, like, for example, most of the time they serve a purpose, right? Like, you'd have a threat that was a frontliner in case you need a frontliner. You had a threat that was a backliner in case you need a backliner. You had a threat that provided Sunder or anti-heal or shred, right? There's a lot of little bits of skill expression in there by slotting them in when you need them for specific rounds, especially on like high impact rounds like 2-6 or 3-6 where you're trying to maintain your streak, and you need to identify like, hey, like this person has a lot of bastions in their front line, or I guess in this set defenders, and you're like, I need somebody who could provide Sunder, right? And you toss in a threat, like stuff like that. It's like, it's a bit dynamic in the mid game, which is really, really nice, and it's always refreshing to have them back. I think the last time we had them was something like Wukong in set 12 because he was like a singular druid. And then I guess the monster trainers are kind of like that, but like not really. I mean, fuck set 15, like who cares? Anyways, back to the game itself. Another trait that I thought is like super fun to play around as well is going to be something like Ionia. Ionia is basically Mirage from set 7, where basically the trait itself gives a different like stat boosting effect depending on the game. So like every single game it'll be switching out. I think there's a pool of 6 different effects. So it could be like one game Mirage gives you scaling attack speed, or another one gives you scaling AD, or another one gives you scaling AP, right? Stuff like that. So that's also pretty fun to play around as well. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of very interesting Mirage combinations that you can do with certain lines. So that's going to be a bit of a knowledge check if you want to be competitive as well. I'm going to fast forward a little bit because there isn't too much to talk about here in the current spot. I am trying to play around some level of AP, and if you know anything about the set, you might have a good idea as to like what I'm trying to lean into with 2 origins already on the way, unlocked, but more on that a little bit later. Going into the 3-2 augments here, I think there are a couple more unique options here as well. I wish I could tell you what the augment on that other guy's board is. I have no fucking idea. But here we go. Epoch, Spirit of Redemption, and Blood Offering. Now, Spirit of Redemption basically just gives you a Spirit Visage, and then it buffs those Spirit Visages a little bit harder. Every 5 seconds, Spirit Visage heals allies within 1 hex for 10% of their missing health. Similar to the old, I think it's the old version of Redemption, I believe, right? Yeah. Like the old Redemption, the old recipe, which Beltier used to make Redemption. That's what it used to do. Blood Offering also exists in the game as well. Gain a Bloodthirster. Combat start, allies holding Bloodthirster lose 20% HP, but gain a 30% HP shield and 10% AD. Very good for lines like just melee focus. So like Shinzao reroll, for those of you who don't know, is a 2-cost hero augment. Eventually you want to play into Zahen, which is really awesome. I believe he is I think he's a 7-cost. He might be a 5-cost, but I believe he's a 5 or 7-cost. I don't remember off the top of my head. I believe he's a 7-cost. But that's also really cool. Like that, this augment's really good for that kind of line. I will say this though, I do take a bit of a boring choice here because this was the first game we got to play today, right? And I was thinking I must get a tuber first before I get to really experiment and click on wonky shit no matter my spot, because I just want to make sure I got a good game in. Indecision was also an augment that was offered as well. This is brand new. In 4 rounds, open a new augment armory of the same tier to replace this augment. Gain 12 gold now. Very good for loose streaking. Actually, insanely good for loose streaking because you don't necessarily lose the power of an augment. It's basically gain a gold augment plus 12 gold because you're going to lose anyways. You might as well just get more money for it. So very good for like Ixtal, which is like the loose streak trait of the set. But also in case you know that like starting stage 3, you're likely going to start loose streaking and you just want to start building up that econ for your stage 4 roll down. Epoch is going to be what I end up taking here because I'm a fucking boomer and I'm boring. I'm not a boomer. I'm young. Well, that's what... No, I'm getting old. Anyways, enough about that in an existential crisis. I take Epoch here because I am broke. Nothing much more to it. There is actually a second reason, and actually I didn't know this at the time when I took it, but there is a slightly better reason as to why Epoch is more better than it would be if this was like set 15, but I'll explain that a little bit later because I think it's a bit of a interesting surprise. But going into the game itself, again, when it comes to playing TFT and like trying to play new sets and you don't know what the hell to do, I will say that one of the best ways to navigate the game is to just find a 4-cost or find a 5-cost that you're like, I want to play around this. I want to play around this, and then I am just going to try and build like items I know are going to be good for it and try to just lean into it. In this game, as you can tell on my planner, and as I've hinted before, I am trying to play into Rise this game. 5 costs, which normally your game plan of playing into just like 5 costs off the bat, what the fuck was that, English? Off the bat is like usually not a very good idea, but I do think that in this set, it's a bit more acceptable. Rise, I saw that on the video because we gotta talk about this. Rise, the way that he works, and as you can see in my planner, I'm starting to try to figure it out. He is a unit that can only be unlocked after unlocking 4 origins onto your board. I shouldn't use the word unlock to say that. You should field 4 origins on your board before you're able to play into it. So the really easiest way that I was trying to navigate this and trying to figure it out off the bat was thinking, okay, which traits have the least number of units required in order to hit an origin breakpoint? And what I found was that there are 2. There is Piltover and there is Void. These are the 2 that you really want to be aiming to put onto your board immediately because they both only require 2 units. Every other origin in the set requires 3 except for Targon, the threats that we talked about earlier. So with Targon, Piltover, Void, that is 5 units. You are already 3 out of 4 origins. You just need to put in 1 more. Here's the kicker as well. In Piltover, I forget which finger was Piltover, but in Piltover, Vi is Zon and Piltover. So now you actually have 1 out of 3 Zon with, this is a very weird movement, but you have 1 out of 3 Zon with 3 traits already active with 5 units. So with 2 extra Zon, with 7 units on level 7, you can unlock Rise. Targon, 2 Piltover, 2 Void, and 3 Zon, with counting Vi, who's a Piltover and Zon, like we mentioned earlier. I did not know that playing this game, so you're gonna see me struggle quite a fucking bit. But when you actually play into the game itself, I truly believe that if you're trying to play into Rise, or you think like maybe it's gonna be a Rise game, you should be playing into like Piltover and Zon / already, because you're probably playing around a Vi, and then it's really easy to slap in Targon, and then you might as well just play into the Rise and just call it. I do think though that considering how easy it is to unlock Rise, because at the moment he doesn't actually have a level requirement in order to unlock, which I think is kind of weird. I do think that you actually need like a level 8 or at the bare minimum level 7 level requirement, because you could unlock him fairly easily depending on the portal. There's actually a portal in the game that, well, funny enough, Trainer Golems is gone. Yippee. Wait for it. But the portal instead that replaced it gives you 3 slammable emblems. So that's a bit worrying, but regardless, in portals like those, it might be severely easier to unlock Rise at very early levels. I don't know what the earliest level is for you to be able to unlock him, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's at a very, very low level. To my understanding, players have already been able to figure out how to unlock him on 6 with some emblems in play, but it's very possible it might be to get a little bit earlier. So my prediction is that for Rise specifically, they're going to introduce a level cap. Like you must be level 8 before this happens, because right now, for example, Set, who's the 5-cost Ionia Bruiser in the line, who he's actually he's a fighter, not a tank, by the way. Don't itemize him as a tank like I did. But in order to play him, you must be level 8 and you must solo frontline a unit like the way that I'm doing right now, like this. Like this, if I was level 8 here, it would have unlocked Set in the next turn, which I ended up going level 8 here. And I think I sit for like 1 turn here. And actually, as I mentioned earlier, if we rewind a little bit, because it's actually very, very important, look at the XP bar. That is fucking expensive. They made level 7 to level 8 a lot more expensive this set. So if you are going to play level 8 boards this set, make sure that if you decide to do so, that you actually have enough money to be able to roll and actually hit your units as well. So this was something I noticed after pumping. I think a lot of us noticed that, like, when we were playing the game, we were like, that felt like a little more money than usual. And it is, because now you need to make sure that if you're going to play into the game, a lot of the time, like, instead of 4-2ing it, 4-5ing it is going to be a lot more optimal, because that just gives you a little bit of extra money in order to make sure that you're able to find what you need. This game in particular, I leveled on 4-1 because I really wanted to make sure that I had enough in order to level, or I wanted to make sure that I had enough time to try to figure out my board for the 4 origins, because I was confused as fuck. Another thing to note as well is that you might have seen the little armory pop up as well. That was Piltover. 2 Piltover, I am worried, to be completely honest, and I do predict that it's possible that 2 Piltover will be slotted into like literally every level 9 board because of the utility that you can get out of Piltover. The best mod, if you don't understand what it is already, the armory pops up, you gotta choose a mod, and you can see the mod on the far right of my screen. I just clicked on a random one, but there's one in particular you gotta keep your eyes peeled for, and that is EMP. What it does, by the way, which is a fucking, listen, like, I don't want to like flame Riot for this one, but it literally mana reaves the entire enemy board. Shroud of Stillness the whole enemy board after 8 seconds. What the fuck? It's not remotely balanced. I remember when I first read it at the playtest, I audibly went, what the fuck? And then Julian, the set lead behind me, went, what the fuck? And then I was like EMP, like, what the fuck? And he's like, oh yeah, that used to be a lot more OP. And I was like, it's still OP. And he's just like, yeah, well, we'll see. We'll balance things as we go on. And I'm just like, bro, EMP needs to get nerfed to the ground. I'm calling this right now. That is not okay. Anyways, going to the 4-2 augments here. I got Retribution, Jewel Lotus, and Call to Chaos. Nothing really new here except for Retribution. Gain 2 Hodges. Allies equipped with Hodge can critically strike with their abilities, which is a crazy good thing for those like melee frontline, again, like Zahen, Shinzao reroll kinds of comps, but that is not what we're playing here. So I think I do end up rerolling it. Get Hold the Line, get min-max as well. I think I should have taken Call to Chaos, Loki. I kind of regret not taking it now that I'm looking at this as well. And min-max, you gain a golden item remover and 4 random components, which is a fairly like just very basic prismatic, which seems fine as well. And then sweet treats. Gain an artifact anvil. Your team gains 30 HP for each item equipped on champions. So this one is actually fairly interesting as well. So this, by the way, is the augment that they incorporated for the set 12 world champion. So actually in the set, as like an homage to the world's players and the winners of the world's players, they all actually have their own individual icons, or rather, excuse me, augments that are in the game. So keep an eye peeled for that. It's really, really cool. I believe all of them have already tweeted their own augments that are in the game, but it's really awesome stuff. I think in this particular spot, I don't remember which one I end up taking here. I think I ended up taking sweet treats because I just want to see like what the different artifacts were. The artifacts in this set are, I believe it's like significantly different. There isn't as many, and I think there's only so many that you can choose from. So here I ended up finding the set from the quest. I try to put the Leona in. I'm trying to figure out the board itself because again, like I'm trying to freestyle this because I didn't know what I'm supposed to put in. All I knew was that Piltover was 2, Void was 2, Dawn is 3, Targon is 1. There we go. This is a perfect 8 right here. So I believe this is good. So now I pop the anvil here. I get Talisman, Rapid Fire Zonias, we've seen this before, and Shadow Puppet. This is a new one. Spawn a clone that copies the holder's items. The clone has 70% max HP and deals 40% damage. It provides very, and I mean very little base stats. 10 armor, MR, and 10% attack speed. So this is definitely going to be one of those that you're really going to want to put on a backliner in general. If you're navigating this set for the first time like I did, it might go on a frontliner, no spoilers. But generally speaking, this is very, very good for your backlines. And I wouldn't be surprised if later down the line, there is some sort of broken interaction with this artifact. It's very similar to Trickster's Glass from the past. So we'll see. We'll see. But anyways, I didn't really know what to take here, but I ended up taking Shadow Puppet because I was just like, I mean, you might as well. I mean, the correct choice is probably going to be something like, well, it can't be Zonia's because I have like strikers already or whatever it may be. So this ends up being like just a little bit of extra frontline for me, but I slammed it a little bit too late. So I end up thinking, so I end up taking a sword here, and then I think I make strikers, and then I have Shojin JG strikers. So my items are looking good for some sort of like AP caster here. And then that AP caster is going to be Rise, and that is what my board is going to be here. So as you can see, he is unlocked, and he is such a cool unit. Again, I don't know why I'm looking at the VOD, and again, there's going to be a lot of mistakes that you're going to see here, especially if you play the game for the first time. Or rather, if you've been playing for like a week or two and you're watching this, you're like, what the fuck am I watching? But if you're watching this and you're like, I don't know what the fuck I'm watching. I mean, at the time, me neither. Now I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, that's a lot of mistakes, but that's okay. Generally, with Riot, you want to keep as many origins on your board as possible active. The reason being is because his ability actually changes with each origin unlocked, and they scale. So as you can see here, I'm going to pause real quick. Targon, for example, it heals the lowest health ally for 10% of the damage dealt. I have Zon on as well, which poison targets, dealing 20 magic damage 3 times over 4 seconds. So as you can see, the more origins you have, the more his spell becomes more and more stacked. So Rise is really, really fun to play because you get to play like these high origin traits, jazz looking boards, especially with a bunch of emblems like I think like augments like flexible, which I don't remember if it's in the set or not, but if it is, with Rise, that is super fun to play because you get to have like so many traits unlocked, and you get to just make a massive list of spells. Singe ends up getting unlocked here as well because Singe, I believe, after losing 35 HP becomes unlocked. You do have to play, I believe, 4 Zon units, or it's like 4 Zon or 4 something else. I think it's 4 Juggernauts, and then you're able to unlock Singe, who I think is actually a very solid 4 cost in the set itself. So that is something to look forward to as well. I think we'll see a lot of metas this set where I think loose streak players will try and just force Singed as soon as possible because they need to lose the HP, feel the Juggernauts, feel the Zon units, unlock immediately, and then try to play for a win out from there. That's definitely going to be a meta at some certain point. And my big guess is going to be, it's going to be like a Rise Singed comp because I think that stuff is really feeling good. I think it's one of the better comps in the game. And Singed as well is also just a really good utility item holder. He can hold things like Red Buff, hold things like your Spark, hold things like, I don't know, like Sunfire Cape, right? Morello, all these are very good on him. I will say that with Rise, he has a lot. Again, every single origin provides a new effect. I'm just going to tell you guys a little bit of my favorite ones. You can go into the game and figure out like, your favorite ones, but I do think in the future I am going to make like a whole like Rise guide in like within a few days. But there are some really interesting ones. Shurima, you knock up enemies and gain random loot. which sounds disgusting, but you need to understand that Shurima is incredibly hard to unlock because the Shurima origin can only be unlocked with Azir, who's a 5 cost. AKA, you must get to Azir first, and then once you have Azir in the board, depending on whether you win or lose rounds consecutively, or you go win, lose, you will be able to start unlocking the other Shuriman units. So I believe Renekton is 2 win, and then I think Nasus is 2 loss. I might have those flipped. And then Xerath is win, loss. Nasus and Renekton are both 4 cost, and Xerath is a 5 cost mage. So really hard to unlock Shurima, but if you get Shurima on your board with Rise on the board, that is a very strong spell that has a lot of utility built into it. It'd be really cool if there was like a machine gun Rise build with Shurima, but that sounds incredibly difficult to pull off because you need an Azir. Another thing to note is something like, I believe Zaun is going to be really common, so with the poison as well. I think Zaun and Targon paired together is really nice because you get that poison going on, but it also has Targon, which acts as sort of like a Gunblade effect, which is super nice for your units as well. I believe Void is really nice because it ignores armor and MR, so you don't have to worry about having to build any type of Sunder or Shred, or I guess Shred in this case. I believe Freljord gives a chill, which is really nice. I'm looking at my notes because there's so many. Ixtal's really cool. You get a random effect every 8 seconds, which I have no idea what those random effects looks like. Ixtal's really difficult to flex into the board, especially late game, especially if you're playing this up for the first time. So I urge people to try it out, but it's definitely going to be difficult. Other ones to note as well, if you have Noxus and you get piercing missiles, they go through the target. It's very similar to Vex from, I believe, that was the country set 10. Other ones to note, Shadow Isles Rise is really cool if you're playing into vertical Shadow Isles, which it's a scaling trait. So basically you want to play Shadow Isles super early in the game and then let that trait scale. You get more, I believe you get more souls, and then Rise, if you have Shadow Isles active, does more damage based on the percentage of souls that you get. So that's going to be super cool. Probably some line that exists that's going to be good for Rise in that Shadow Isle line, but that's very difficult and something that is completely outside of my knowledge at the time of recording this video. Yorls is pretty cool. You get to shrink enemies as well. There is a lot of utility that you can like flex into Rise, but it's like ultimately way harder to get to those spots though, because you do have to flex into the traits eventually. But that's what I mean by Rise being so cool, because there are so many ways that you can play this champ that I do think that like it's like the possibilities are basically endless. I believe one of the writers had said that there are over 8,000 different combinations for Rise's spell, which is incredible. So I highly urge you to try and play into Rise when the set immediately goes on to live, because he is so fun. But again, there's so many cool units in the set. Like, I'm telling you, the set is so good, man. Like, it's genuinely so good, and it's so fun. Here, by the way, please don't laugh. I built a Deathblade. I shouldn't have done that. I should have built like BT Edge of Night here. That's my bad. I think I ended up getting like gargoyles on set here. Just get like a 3-item set, and I think I moved the net onto Senna. I guess that's fine as well. I just didn't get to complete my turn, so it is what it is. But I'm basically just like trying to cruise here, trying to play some sort of like legendary board. I will say, again, like I did mention this earlier, Set is a fighter. He's not really like a tank to say. So if you put him in the front line, he will like basically like immediately start doing his sit-ups, and then your frontliner just like disappears, which feels kind of bad. Ziggs ends up getting unlocked here as well. I think you feel a Yordle and some other stuff as well. I did get a little shitter dupe as well because of the spoils of war. But my general game plan from this point on is to just try and stay strong, maintain a decent board, and try to find that Rise 2 to try to cap out high. And if I can try to tempo, then as long as my board looks good, I will try my best to get to level 10 because I have a bunch of econ here. Set 2 as well makes my board super strong. I think, do I move things over? Yep, I do, thank God. Double gargoyles. Ooh. Okay, we're gonna pretend that didn't happen. Anyways, the set is new. You're gonna make mistakes. It happens, but that's part of the beauty of the game. Like, there's so many decision points in the game, and that's gonna happen. I think surely I fix it, right? Surely I fix it. Like, surely I put double gargoyles declaw on the set. Oh god, I hope I do. And if I don't, this is very awkward. Okay, well, anyways, you live and you learn, I guess. But board's looking fairly solid at this point. We can talk about a little bit about the other players' boards as well. This guy's playing Void. Void is very similar to, I believe it wasn't called Exotech. It was called something else. Zonmoz. It were very similar to Zon mods from set 9, where if you don't remember, basically it's like you get an extra item for your Zon units. In this case, it's Void, so you get extra items for your Void units, but they don't actually take up an item slot. Another thing to note here is that if you see emblems on the carousel, you like gotta auto take them. I didn't take it, which is so bad. I should have taken the Piltover emblem for sure, because it actually buffs my Rise, and then I actually get the Piltover buff where every third cast deals 100% more damage, which is a lot of damage. I cannot believe I took the, oh my goodness. But as you can see here, like these are some of the modules as well. I believe they're called Void mods. Or sorry, they're called mutations. But Adrenaline module for this one, gain 15% damage amp, increased by 1% after every 3 attacks. And some other ones as well. I didn't get to play Void too much, so I didn't really get a chance to really see it. But Void is also one of those traits though that I do know that for one of the quests for Rift Herald, you do need to keep Void in for 8 turns. That way you can unlock Rift Herald. So it's one of those traits you definitely, if you decide to play it, you decide to play it early, and you decide to commit pretty early in the game. That way you know you have to play into Rift Herald, etc. That's a trait and an unlock that's really going to depend on, like, if you want to unlock it, like, you really have to go out of your way for it, which makes a lot of sense. Void also has Baron Nashor in the game as well. I believe if you get to level 10, that becomes a possibility, although I don't remember the exact unlock conditions off the top of my head, because again, I played negative Void during the playtest. But Void does look pretty interesting overall. A lot of things to memorize for the actual modules as well. God, dude, this cutscene is so cool, by the way. It's funny, like at the playtest, we weren't able to choose our chibis if it wasn't in the shop. So I ended up just like gambaying for like Yone, the prestige one, and I ended up hitting like within like 2 rolls, and I was like, ooh, okay, that's gonna be me. But talking about the other boards as well, this is the reroll Yordle board. Yordle is going to be the reroll trait of the set. It is fairly straightforward to my understanding. There isn't anything like too crazy about it. I think somebody had mentioned that it's similar to Crew. It kind of sucks because like I'm talking about it, but I also got to play very little of it, of the set myself. But it is the reroll of the set. It's fairly straightforward. You reroll for the Yordles and you try to push levels to try to put all of them onto the board. I think there is an exclusive like thing at level 10 for Yordles as well, and I think there's like some special hidden Easter egg, but I don't actually know what that is. There's no unlock, I believe, that has to do with Yordles specifically, except for Ziggs, but that's not necessarily the Easter egg. The Easter egg is level 10 with a bunch of Yordles on the board. But that being said, I think my game plan here is fairly simple as well. I'm just trying to go and try to push level 10 and try to find the rise to there, because I just have too, like, my board is too strong that I can't really justify like rolling at all. So I just kind of like sit here and just like do nothing. But anyways, I have the Senna and Lucian on my board as well, which is a fairly simple, straightforward unit. Just fires a laser. It's just super easy. Get the, yep, good. Got the trap onto the Senna, finally. But overall, it's like a fairly straightforward plan, right? And I think what's interesting though about the 5 cost to set as well with Kindred, for example, as you can see in the shop, is that the majority of them are actually supposed to be support-esque units. So Kindred, for example, is a unit where after she casts, she targets the largest clump of your own units and creates this AoE area where they cannot die in for, I believe it's for 2.5 seconds, which sounds really strong and sounds like it's supposed to be good. But the problem that I have with Kindred is that with this unit in particular, you low-key kind of have to time the cast, because what I mean by that is if you miss the, if she casts too early, let's say you build things like Shojin or like blue buff on her, which sounds like it's supposed to be good. The problem is that she casts too early into the fight, and because her ability only prevents units from dying, but not from taking damage, the units just, like, nothing's different about the board itself. So you kind of have to like play around with Kindred a little bit, and I don't think she's actually a unit you want to itemize like at all. I still don't really understand how you're supposed to be like itemizing her, period, but she is going to be like one of those support units that I believe we've been missing in TFT in general. Other support units to note as well are things like Ornn, where if you keep Ornn in for, I believe, 5 turns, you get an artifact, which is crazy. So like anybody who high rolls Ornn on like stage 4 and is able to win fights, that is somebody who like has a very good chance of like winning out the game. I think that is also going to be a very big pain point, and I think they will nerf the amount of turns it takes to get the Ornn artifact in, because it's one of those things that like 5 turns is a long time. That's a whole stage that you're like kind of low-key, like he's not a bad unit by any means, but you could low-key be playing down a unit for quite a bit of time. So that is something that worries me a little bit, because on the one hand, it's like if people high roll it, then people are gonna bitch about it. But on the other hand, if he's too strong, then everyone's gonna have an Ornn, and it just becomes an Ornn fiesta. So one concern that I do have about the set myself is that I do think that there are a ton of like 5 costs that like their 1-star version cannot be good. Rise is in this class because I think Rise, if he's good, everybody will be able to unlock him super easily, and because of the way that the unlock system works, where you're guaranteed a copy of that unit after you complete the quest, if Rise 1 is good, then like everyone's gonna play him, right? Because it's too easy to unlock. Same with like Ornn. If Ornn's base stats are too strong for like a 1-star version of a tank, every person's gonna try to rush level 8 and try to find like that Ornn on their roll down. Obviously that's not gonna always be the case. Like Fast 9 will just be better in that kind of a scenario, but these are things that like kind of worry me. Like the 5 cost 1-star versions are probably going to be super weak this set in general, and I think they kind of just have to be based off the set design. So that is something that I'm a little worried about for this set and how they're going to balance it. I'm really interested to see, but that is something to keep in. Other things to know as well, I think it's just me, and I believe this was Saint Vicious who was in the lobby as well. I think it was just me and him near the end of it, but I'm going to fast forward just a little bit because we are just like approaching near the end. Oh, I'm sorry, it's one other person. I think the Euro player actually ends up dying, and then I think it was just me and Saint for the last 2. But generally speaking, this is kind of what you can expect out of set 16. Again, the set is super fucking fun. I highly recommend trying it out. I was having so much fun. Like I remember like during the playtest being like, I want to play another one. 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 So bad. And then like they like announced like, hey, it's time to do like the last like half-hour Q&A with the devs. And I remember thinking like, fuck, man. Like I just want to keep playing the set. Like I want to play it so fucking bad. Another thing to note as well is that in the set during the PvE cycle, this doesn't usually happen, but sometimes the 5 cost animations are not actually in the game yet. Sometimes they wait until the set goes on to live before they incorporate those. But during the playtest, they had told us that 20 out of 24 are already available and 4 are missing. But before the PvE drops, those are going to be in the game. So I believe that's going to be in there. So as you can see, I'm already typing into the chat. Please sack, please sack, please sack. Because like, or don't FF, because I know people want to like play the next game, but like I want to make sure that like if we can see the 5 cost animation, I want to try to go for it. So as you can see here, I'm like prepping my board just to make sure that I can stack properly. I have 6 copies of Rise here, and I'm going to be trying to shoot for that Rise 3. That is going to be my goal this game, and that is what I am going to go for. Like that's everything to it. So as you can see here, stacking my board here, I'm trying to organize my thoughts here. This is actually something really important that you gotta do if you're trying to learn like how to pivot pretty well. But generally speaking, like you want to organize your board, because that way you know I have to sell the left side or I have to sell the right side immediately. Luckily it's dragon, so it doesn't really matter too much. But generally speaking here, like I already know that like everything on my board, like I'm basically willing to sell because I want to try to go for the Rise as well. And as you can see here, we're gonna go for the roll down here. So we're gonna sell everything here. We have 116 gold to roll, holding a little bit of the 5 costs here. And as you can see, we're gonna start rolling here. And as you can probably also tell, there is a problem. There are too many 5 costs in the fucking set. There are too many. And because there are so many 5 costs in the set now, it is much harder to hit 3-star 5 costs, which is really unfortunate. So here, I tried to pick up the Rise here, but the mouse didn't register or whatever, because you can see it popped up. But unfortunately, out of that entire roll down, I only saw 1 more, which sucks because I was 3 off. So unfortunately, this game does end up in a second. It should have been a first. But I did have to go for 3-star 5 costs for you guys, but unfortunately, I could not pull through. So that's going to do it for the game. That is my first experience with set 16, my initial impressions overall. I think I got to talk about most of what I wanted to talk about. In terms of guides, in terms of what you can expect for set 16, I did want to mention one last final thing. For set 16, to just to demonstrate just how dedicated and how hyped I am about this set, I need to make a promise to you guys, and I want you guys to try to hold me accountable for this one. For set 16, I tweeted this out last night. That's a picture of a cat. It's from a 360 camera, that's why it looks like that. But as soon as the PvE goes live, I'm going to challenge myself to upload 196 videos in set 16. 1 long form and 1 short form every day for 14 weeks. And I will reference this tweet on February 17th on 2026 to see how I did. So I want you guys to try to hold me accountable. I am going to try and post every single day for set 16 because I genuinely believe that this set has what it takes to be the best set of all time, and I don't think it's even close. So that's gonna do it for me. I apologize if this video was very long. I have no idea how long the video is actually gonna end up being, but I'm gonna be committed to this because I really do think that this is the set. This is the set of all time. And I want you guys, if there's anything you take away from this video at all, it's that Kai Watanabe, from the bottom of his heart, truly believes that this is the best time to play TFT. This is the best set that I believe it will be of all time. You can quote me on that. I am so excited. TFT is at its best that it's ever been. And I'm so excited to experience it with all of you guys. That's it from me for today. Expect an upload tomorrow. Take care, guys. Happy climbing.